Uh,
All
all
right,
right,
I
I
think
think
we
we
are
are
officially
officially
live.
live.
What
What
is
is
going
going
on,
on,
ladies
ladies
and
and
gentlemen?
gentlemen?
Welcome
Welcome
back
back
to
to
another
another
live
live
stream,
stream,
Bitcoin
Bitcoin
Daily.
Daily.
I'm
I'm
here
here
with
with
my,
my,
of
of
course, my
course, my
co-host
co-host
here,
here,
Bitcoin
Bitcoin
Queen. How
Queen.
you
How you
doing,
doing,
Queen?
Queen?
Hey, what's up? Doing well. Another week, another Bitcoin, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Today,
Yeah,
well,
well,
this
this
week
week
is a
is a
pretty
pretty
full
full
week,
week,
and
and
pretty much
pretty much
everything is
everything is
happening
happening
on
on
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So we're
So
going
we're
to be
going to be
talking
talking
about
about
that
that
today.
today.
Basically,
Basically,
we
we
have
have
the
the
CPI
CPI
coming
coming
out
out
this
this
week.
week.
We
We
have
have
the
the
Ethereum
Ethereum
update
update
and
and
the
the
FOMC
FOMC
meeting
meeting
minutes.
minutes.
So
So
it's
it's
going to
going to
be
be
definitely
definitely
a
a
week
week
that's
that's
going to
going to
be
be
packed
packed
with a
with a
lot of
lot of
things
things
going
going
on.
on.
That
That
as
as
far as
far as
like
like
volatility,
volatility,
that
that
bring
bring
volatility
volatility
into the
into the
market.
market.
And
And
speaking
speaking
of
of
volatility,
volatility,
if we look at prices right now, you can see that Bitcoin has just all of a sudden started it surging here, up almost 3% on the day, above $29,000. So currently
Nice.
testing, yeah, it's currently testing the highs that we hit of probably like a week ago or so, 2 weeks ago. I think the high we had hit was 29,182. Was that the high here? 29. Yeah, I think that was a high. And currently we're at a high of, we actually broke the high, 29,197. So we've actually set a new high here in Bitcoin, a new recent high for like the last few months. So that's, I guess Bitcoin knew that we're going live and it decided to show off a little bit.
Yeah, per usual. I think right now we're in very exciting times, for lack of a better word. I guess we're not allowed to use the word recession anymore since it doesn't exist, but
Right.
we're definitely on the brink of a turning within the economy. Whether or not people realize it, definitely, consumer pricing and a lot of that stuff is very high, and we're still pushing these interest rates up. QE, I don't think is on our side this time around, but we'll see what the Fed does over the next few months, because things are very interesting. The housing market has gone insane because some of these assets with that program, they are backed fully, and these bigger banks, they take a lot of less risks than they used to. So a lot of interesting stuff happening here, and more and more people talking about hyper Bitcoinization, and whether or not that will actually happen over the next coming months. So we'll see.
Yep, definitely. So right now Bitcoin is still pushing. It's up $29,250 right now. Let's take a look at the rest of the market here and see what has been going on in the last 24 hours and the last 7 days. So you can see in the last 24 hours, Bitcoin is up 4.66%. Ethereum is right behind it at 3%. And everything else, there's nothing that really stands out. We see Matic up 2%, Solana up 2%, but no real big movers here. Litecoin up 4%, so that one's actually kind of standing out a bit. As we know, Litecoin has a halving event coming in August, so that's something to watch for as well. Let's take a look at the top gainers and the top losers over the last 7 days here, and we can see the ones that are here from the top 100 list is Radix. Are you familiar with this project?
No, actually, I do not know them.
Yeah, it's up 30% over the last 7 days. So I'm not familiar with it, but I have been seeing that it keeps popping up here as a top gainer and a top loser, uh, because when coins go up a lot, they usually also fall a lot. We know that Dogecoin last week had a run up when it was posted as the logo for Twitter. Were you able to catch that?
Yes, yes, I did see the little dog in the corner
Yeah.
and loading on my home screen for Twitter last week. There was that. I think Dogecoin pumped 20% when Elon Musk had done that, which was pretty funny. Now today in the news, I was seeing, whether or not it's lost its steam and it's over. But we'll see. I think at some point in time it was changed back to the bird.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think it
is
was.
it so it's the little bird icon when it loads, but
Yeah.
yeah, so I guess they changed it back completely because at some point in time it would load the bird on the home screen, but then in the corner it would have the Doge
Right.
mascot. So pretty funny stuff.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
think
think
on
on
Friday, I
Friday, I
think is
think
when
is
they
when they
changed it
changed it
back.
back.
So
So
actually,
actually,
when it
when it
ran
ran
up,
up,
I
I
actually
actually
shorted it. So because I know how Dogecoin works at this point, right? Whenever there's a
Yeah.
huge pump like this, like that's free money. All you have to do is just short that top there, short it. When you see it starts slowing down that pump, that's when you start shorting. And I was able to
Yeah.
short it from around 10 cents all the way down to its current price now, which is around 8 cents. I actually just closed my short position on Doge during this pump recently here. So within the last hour, I actually just
Nice.
closed it. Yeah, so it was an
Nice, nice.
yeah, it was a nice little run up there. But yeah, so that those are the top gainers, the top losers here. We have Caspa down 11%, H bar 10%, Aptos down 8.8%. So these are just some of the tokens here that stand out to me right now. Not too many and nothing too bad. 10% in crypto is nothing, right? So that's just the regular a usual day in crypto in the crypto market during its volatility. But yeah, so let's take a look at what we have coming up this week. So the main thing that I want to talk about this week is the CPI data that we're expecting on Wednesday. We also have the FOMC meeting, the meeting minutes coming out also happening Wednesday, and of course the Ethereum Shanghai or Shapella upgrade also on Wednesday. So it's gonna be definitely a packed Wednesday. Let's look here at what we're going to be looking at. So the first thing is the CPI data. That's going to be coming out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on April 12th. So right now, well, last month, as we all know, the data came out 6% inflation, and now the consensus for Wednesdays is 5.2%. So that's the consensus. So if you look back over the last 8 months, because it's been 8 months in a row where inflation has gone down, and if you look over the last 8 months, not one time has from one month to the other has inflation dropped by more than 0.6%. And right now the consensus is a 0.8% drop. So I thought that was kind of odd, I guess, for the consensus to be that far down. And I don't know because if we miss, if let's say Bitcoin drops, I mean, I'm sorry, not Bitcoin. I always got Bitcoin on my mind. Let's say if inflation drops from 6% to 5.5%, which I consider pretty good. Is that going to be bad for the market? How do you think the market will react in that scenario since the consensus is at 5.2%? Hello? Uh-oh, I think she might be frozen. Did we lose Bitcoin Queen here? We either lost her or she's being very, very still, which is very impressive because I can't stay that still for that long. But yeah, I think we might have lost her there. So let's just continue here for the moment, see if we're able to get her back here at any time soon. Yeah, I don't hear her or see her at all. So let me see if I can join back up real quick and see if that fixes the issue. If not, we'll just continue here. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Join video call. I don't know. We'll leave it there, see what happens if she's able to hop back on. So yeah, so that's kind of what I've been thinking about, and it's kind of important because if we go back, let me pull up this right here, this chart. So if we go back, right, and we're looking at the last 3 months when we've had during the week of the inflation data. And looking at this, you can see that back in January, we had a run up of 23.85%, basically 24% run up throughout that week of the CPI data. In February, we had a run up of 14%. And then last month in March, we had a run up of 25%. So because of that, the average between those is about 21% move up. If we kind of use that average and say, okay, we're going to run up this week 21%, we're talking about Bitcoin hitting $34,000 over this week. And that would be the average there from the last 3 months. So that's why I'm thinking, with they've made that drop so big. I don't know if we're gonna hit it, but I still feel like even if let's say it came out at 5.5%, I think that would still be somewhat bullish. I think if we hit 5.2%, that will be extremely bullish. So that's currently what I'm watching there. My thoughts on it. I will definitely be looking to play it as far as trades. I'll be setting up some trades, and we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of this video when we do an analysis there. I think we got the Bitcoin Queen back. Are you back?
Yeah. Yeah, you're like talking and then like I don't know, like my Discord crashed and I was like, oh man.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Now I had asked you a question, and then you were just frozen. So
I was just frozen, gone. Yeah.
yeah.
What's the question? Talk to me.
I no so I was explaining that the consensus for the inflation right now is at 5.2%. And last month we came in at 6%. Over the last 8 months, where we've had 8 months in a row where inflation has gone down, and over the 8 months, not one time has from one month to the other has the inflation dropped by more than 0.6%. So right now the consensus is that we're going to drop 0.8%. So if we drop, let's say that the report comes out and inflation falls not to 5.2, which is what's the consensus is, but let's say it falls to 5.5, right? A 5% drop. How do you think the market will react in that scenario?
5%. I don't. First of all, I don't see it. There's things that so it's like what is inflation dropping in this market and what does that mean per se? Everything right now I think is reacting to the previous 2 to 3 months of increases in prices and inflation in general. I think we're still seeing effects from these previous months now come into the consumer market. So I went to the store last week, for example, and I like to buy this soap. It's called Dr. Bronner's. And usually buy it for like $12, $13 because I buy it in bulk. And it's been a while since I bought it. So I went and I go buy it. At Target, it's priced at $17 and change. Now, that wasn't the actual price in store. The actual price in store was $15.99, but this is what they're planning to price it at because they updated all their SKUs, all their SKUs. And yeah, we're starting to see that be priced into the market now. Gas also going back up. There's a lot of like actual consumer goods that are becoming more expensive as we speak. And I think that the market is not, the market's going to react, outside of like actual consumers and, the people that spend in everyday life versus things like the stock market. Treasury and bonds obviously are shot. Nobody's doing anything with those right now. Banks are obviously facing those issues as we speak, especially those smaller banks. So I think for what's going to happen is they're going to try to, I guess they're going to try to leverage these larger banks, which really benefit from some of these programs that they're putting into place now to kind of create some kind of stimulus. And we're also seeing what's going on with like Fed now. I haven't heard anything about them doing any test trials or giving away any free, CBDC money to kind of like try to push that initiative, which is something we saw happen with China. things are kind of just going like sideways. People are spending less naturally. They're just not doing as much right now. And I think even though they say like, hey, inflation is less, from a consumer perspective, it's not. And from a financial perspective, most people think that we are underwater and we are facing a financial crisis and we are in a recession. And in the upcoming months, this is why, you know, the idea of Bitcoin running very, very high keeps getting pushed around. You know, after we heard what Balaji said of like, oh, Bitcoin's going to hit $1 million in 90 days, most people don't think that. But most people do think that Bitcoin's going to hit $1 million or at least surge in the next within the next year, very high. I've been seeing reports of, you know, multiple millions and all the cryptocurrencies. You know, I've been seeing so many reports across the board, kind of pushing this idea. So yeah, I think we kind of just need to hang tight, because these numbers that the Fed is reflecting, even though they're saying like, you know, everything's okay, in the past we've seen where they say like, hey, things are okay, and they're really not. That's kind of where they are on the brink of collapsing, and they're trying to basically not put everyone in a panic to cause bank runs and things like that. So yeah, those numbers to me, they're kind of just like, I don't know, gimmicks for the consumers to, you know, ease panic, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. And
you already know how the government works. They're always going to be able to manipulate everything to fit their agenda and to, you know, they're gonna let us see what they want us to see, not, you know, what might actually be going on in the market. We've already seen that they've changed the definition of a recession in the official like White House. What was it, the White House website or whatever? They changed the definition of it and everything, so that just so that they can say no, we're not in a recession, you know. So
yeah. There's actually there's been more people allocated to the IRS. So the IRS just got a grant or allocated $80 billion over the next 10 years to basically up their staff, up their collection of taxes, answer more questions during tax season. Apparently, approximately $600 billion is not is not collected by the IRS yearly. And I mean, they're basically trying to crack down on that and definitely crack down on all the crypto bros. Because I mean, we see what's happening. We saw when we went off the gold standard, and you know, everyone's trying to say like, hey, you know, give us our gold, give us your gold. We're gonna devalue the dollar. You shouldn't have anything else to back on it. I think that's the same thing that's happening with crypto right now. They're like having a war on it. You know, you can't do anything in crypto, you companies. One of the things that I did see in the news is actually Binance US is having a really hard time right now finding a banking partner. It's really, really hard to be a crypto company these days and get banked, because they shut down Signature, Silvergate is gone, SBV is gone, and a lot of those smaller banks, the advantage to having smaller banks is that they like to cover the jurisdictions that regional and national banks don't, right? So we have these big players like Wells Fargo and Citi and all these in between, but they follow very strict guidelines, and most of those banks do not like crypto companies and do not mess with them because of a regulatory standpoint, even though a bank like JP Morgan has its own private blockchain and its own coin that they use within their customer base. However, these smaller banks like SBV, like Silvergate, like Signature Bank, they were more personalized to the communities, and they were able to operate under different jurisdictions based off location and local rules and all this other stuff. So it kind of they kind of like work around these like certain sectors where banking is like forbidden, like the cannabis sector, or you know, things like that. Cannabis, crypto, all these sectors where crypto is money and banking is a very gray area, and they would kind of like work with these brands and these people, and we're kind of seeing the collapse of that. Because the dollar's weakening. They need to retain people in it. They need to push this CBDC, and they need to lessen the avenues of getting onboarded onto alternative assets, because they need to retain money in theirs.
Yep.
Yeah, 100% agreed. And actually, when I started my company as an LLC, I had Bitcoin in the name. So when I went to try to open up a bank account, I had to jump through so many hoops, and finally I was able to convince a bank that I didn't buy and sell Bitcoin, that it was just a name based on that I was doing advertising, like I was doing social media advertising, and that I had an online store basically that I collected in cash and fiat, and that was the only way. I had to like sign papers and everything. Like it was crazy. It was the only way that I was able to open up a bank account. If you open up a bank account, do not put anything about Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in the name of your company, because it's going to be very, very difficult to open up a bank account. I imagine now it's more difficult than before. I did this 6-7 years ago, so I imagine now it's going to be even stricter than before.
So that's what we're expecting, what we're looking forward to this week on as far as Wednesday for the inflation rates. So we'll be looking at that. I'm going to be showing you guys exactly what I'm looking at as far as how to play it when Wednesday comes around, when that data comes out. So let's go into the next thing. The next thing is the FOMC minutes. So this right here, this is going to be happening also on April 12th, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, what the FOMC minutes is basically a summary of the meeting that they had 3 weeks ago when they made the decision on hiking the interest rates. And basically they're explaining how they, what the discussions were within that meeting and how they came to the decision and why they decided to hike interest rates. And then there probably is some sort of Q&A or whatever. I think, I'm not sure. I don't know if anyone from the Fed is going to be speaking. Do you know if anyone from the Fed is going to be speaking, or is it just a summary that comes out?
I think it's just a summary that comes out. I don't think the Fed is set to speak. I think they have a lot of stuff that they can hash out. They shouldn't be speaking anyways.
So it's just a summary that comes out, basically outlining everything that was covered. So the FOMC minutes alone doesn't bring a bunch of volatility itself, but it could have some sort of impact on the market depending how that meeting went, what the discussions were, and how it comes out as far as what their thinking was. So it kind of shows their stance. And it gives a little bit of clarity on where they might be going in the future with the hiking interest rates. So that's something that we're going to be watching as well on Wednesday. And then the last and final thing we're going to be watching on Wednesday is the Ethereum Shapella upgrade. So what do you think is going to happen with that? Because I've heard a lot of rumors from some people saying Ethereum's going to, there's going to be a huge price dump. And I've heard the other side of the coin, which is, over 50% of people that have Ethereum staked are in a loss right now. Number two is less than 15% of all Ethereum is actually staked. If you compare it to its competitors, there's 60% and above usually of the coins are staked. And then the last thing is that they're going to be rolling this out in phases. So it's not just going to be like, all right, at 1 o'clock, everything's out, and everybody at the same time can just sell their coins. It's going to be rolling out in phases for network security reasons and things like that. So that should also prevent a big, what I think, price dump. If ever, let's say everyone did decide to sell their coins as soon as it was, that upgrade happened. What do you think is going to happen with this upgrade?
I think this is pretty much what everyone's been waiting for at this rate, for this upgrade to finally happen, because it also does mark the full separation away from Ethereum and POW, which in the future we'll see what that holds, because that Ethereum has been on POW for a long time, and that definitely promoted decentralization. Now we're going into something that's going to probably centralize the chain, even though it's gotten so large and it's spanned out in so many places. But, the stakers, as long as they keep getting those incentives and everyone else isn't, that, gets a little sticky. But I think overall what's the interesting thing to me is the issues that some people might have with their keys and some of these validators. From what I read, there's a lot of people thinking that it's going to impose some security risk. It's good that they did make that rollout so that everybody just doesn't unstake and sell. Even though I doubt that was going to happen anyways, there would have definitely been a good amount of validators that would have just kept their coins where they are because they're staking for the long term. I think that overall it's good for the Ethereum community. People are saying that this is going to be a non-event, which means that there really shouldn't be any price action movement or any volatility in the market because of this happening. But we'll see in the upcoming days. I think that this is pretty much what should have happened months ago. Before the whole thing launched, they probably should have figured things like as such out. But now that's finally happening. It's great.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. I think it's going to be a non-event. I think if anything, it might be bullish post the upgrade. So let's see what happens with that. All right, so that's basically the main things that are going to be happening this week, which are three big things that can lead to a lot of volatility. I know for sure CPI data is going to lead to volatility. Always brings a lot of volatility into the market throughout the week. FOMC meeting, not too much. The Ethereum upgrade, maybe, we don't know, right? So that one's kind of up in the air. It's something that we just got to keep an eye on. We just got to watch. But regardless, it's going to be volatility due to the CPI data. So be prepared regardless for volatility this week. As far as news goes, not too much is going on in the world of cryptos. There was a few hacks, for a few $1 million on a few different exchanges. But I think that's something that happens literally all the time. And it was nothing major. Yeah, it was nothing major.
I think the only thing that I saw that may be worth highlighting is Coinbase is thinking of integrating the Lightning Network, which is cool in Bitcoin land. I know a lot of people are bullish on Lightning and using Lightning because it is faster and cheaper, although it really doesn't take too long to move Bitcoin around these days if you just pay a reasonable amount of fees. But fees have been going up on the Bitcoin network. And I think it has a lot to do with ordinals, actually. A lot of bloatware on the chain these days with that kind of stuff. But other than that, yeah, just the hacks and some more info about the Ripple lawsuit and people's opinions and stuff. I think as the week kind of develops, we see things happen towards the middle of the week these days. So maybe next week we'll have some more interesting stuff for you.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go ahead and take a look at, let's do the Bitcoin price analysis. Let's take a look at where the market is, what we can maybe expect throughout this week, and how I'm going to be playing the price of Bitcoin, how I'm going to be trading it. So let's go ahead and dive right into that part. So this chart here that we're going to be looking at right now is the chart that I just showed you recently. This is how every week during CPI data. It's been an average, each move has been an average of about 21% each week, right? Throughout the week of the CPI data release. So if we were to see that average play out again, that means that Bitcoin could hit upwards of $34,000. So that's a pretty big deal right there. If we take a look at our chart right now, and this is pointing out some of the resistances and stuff, you'll see that around here, 34,000. So I have the next big resistance level up around 36,000, but that's really closer to that 34 range that we could potentially see. Now let's look at the weekly close to see how that went. You can see that not much happened in the last 3 weeks. Not much has happened, right? It feels like the price ever since this, ever since we got the CPI data last month, that we had a run up of 26%. It's kind of, price has just kind of been consolidating here in this range, kind of waiting between, it's been anywhere between $29,000 all the way down to about $26,000 is the range where it's been for the last 3 weeks. And right now we're at the top of that range. You can see that we're currently sitting at $29,229. But guess what? We're still at a resistance level. This is a big resistance level here. If we look back, you can see that before we had the big fall, it was a big support there. Once again, back in 2021, this was a huge support area. And once again, when for the first time we broke through this area, after we broke above it, we came back and used it as a support. So because of that, we've tested it so many times, it's going to be a big resistance area. So that's currently where we're at now. In order to break above this, we will need a big catalyst. The CPI data is definitely can be that big catalyst that we're missing, that we haven't had over the last 3 weeks. That could push the price beyond this resistance, and I think if we break above this resistance, the next level I'm looking for, honestly, is not even 34,000. At that point, I'm looking probably at 36,000. That's where my next major resistance level is, because if we look back, you can see where it played a huge role right here as a support. You can see it played not only a role as a support here, but as a resistance here when we fell below it. And again, up here, it played a role as a support and resistance again. So that's going to be the next major level that I'm watching. But on the way up, there are going to be some minor resistances at 32,000. There's going to be a minor resistance there. You can see it's played a role a few times back here as well. So we should see that play as a resistance. And after that, I think pretty much 36,000 is that really that next big number. Let's see if we bring up the volume profiles here, if they show us anything different. We can see as we break here, this is, remember, a few weeks ago, we were talking about the volume falling off, dropping off above 25,000. And that I thought that if we broke above 25,000, we would probably run up to around that $28,000 to $30,000 range. And guess what happened? We're at that. We broke above 25,000, and we're currently sitting between that $28,000 to $30,000 range, which is exactly where the volume starts to pick up again. You can see that these volume bars, they start to pick up again. So that's exactly what we're watching. We're running into this right now. And once we break above this, you can see that the next bar of volume that really sticks out is that $32,000 area. After that is going to be the one that sticks out the most, is going to be up here between 34 all the way to 36, $38,000. So that's going to be the next ranges that we're really looking at if we break above this resistance level here, which we're depending what happens this week, it might happen, right? I know a lot of people were asking for a retracement, and I've even called for a pullback several for the last 2 weeks because of a few different things, right? We have the CME gap. Let me see if I could pull it up here. The CME gap that's currently sitting at $20,000, right? So let me take the volume profiles off real quick. So we have this CME gap sitting at $20,000. And there's been people calling for that gap to potentially get filled, and we saw it happen back here, right? So recently we just filled one of the CME gaps back here, but it did take 6 weeks in order to do so. So right now we do have a gap, and it's been 3 weeks, so we're on our 4th week, and depending what happens with CPI data this week, we might inch out, go out even further from this gap. Now, there is, to the upside, we do also have another gap here, and that's sitting at $36,000. So that could be another potential gap that we hit there. If we, instead of breaking down, we break to the upside. So that's something that we're watching as far as for a CME gap to the downside and a CME gap to the upside. Let me see other things that we're watching here. Let's go into the daily chart here, and we can see pretty clearly here where exactly our resistance is. $28,000 to $30,000 is going to be that big range of resistance, and then our support to the downside, if we were to break down, we have a minor support sitting around $27,000. You can see it's held that level there. It's held the price there as it's consolidated. If we were to break below that, I would imagine that we fall back down into this level here, which is around $25,000. And that's what a lot of people have been calling for, really, because if we pull up here the RSI, Relative Strength Index, we can see that there has been if we grab our trend line indicator here, there's a bearish divergence. So what exactly is a bearish divergence? Is when the price is setting up higher highs and going higher, 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 but the momentum or the strength, the relative strength index is setting up lower highs and lower lows. So that's currently something that we've been watching. Usually when there's a divergence like this where price is going up but momentum's going down, it doesn't mean that we're gonna pull back 100% of the time, but it usually is some sort of warning, meaning that something is gonna change, right? Something's changing in the market, and that's why usually we get some sort of pullback at that point. However, news and catalysts can always break these technical things that can happen within the chart. So that's just it's an idea, but again, other things can move the market in the opposite direction of it. So those are just the main things I think that we're watching. I've showed you guys last week the inverse head and shoulders. That's a bullish pattern that we're also watching. We've also set up higher highs, higher lows on the weekly time frame. So those are the bullish scenarios. And then now we have the CPI data, which every week that we've had it over the last 3 months has made Bitcoin move up 21% on average. So that's going to be something that we're watching as well. Now let's talk about how I'm going to be personally playing it this week. So basically, at this point, I'm still going to be short in resistance below $30,000. Doesn't mean that I want to open short positions necessarily. I want to probably, I'm currently in a short to be transparent. I opened up a short at 29,000. And if we move down even a little bit, I'm probably taking profits because I probably want to close my positions before Wednesday. And if we flip $30,000, I'm also closing my position. So right now my stop is at 30,000, above 30,000. If we close above it, I'm flipping. I'm not only closing my short position, but I'm probably flipping into a long position at that point, because my target at that point is going to be 32K and potentially even higher over the coming weeks. So that's currently where I'm at right now. The way I'd play if I had no positions open is the same, kind of similar. Above 30K, I want to open up a long position with a target being 32,000. Below 30K, I'm probably still going to be looking to close to short. But I would if you don't have a position open right now, I would probably wait for Wednesday to see, let this pick a direction, right? Right now we're consolidating. So even though you can make some money if you pick the right direction right now, you're not gonna make much money during consolidation. So it's better to let the price pick a direction and then use that as a breakout entry, right? So above 30,000 would be a breakout entry to the upside, and probably below 28,000 would be a breakout entry to the downside. So you could probably set up orders in both of those directions, above 30, below 28, and potentially catch a breakout, depending which way Bitcoin ends up going. Now, again, I think since they've continued to raise the interest rates, I think inflation does come down again this month. I think we do get a 9th straight month of inflation going down. I just don't know where, if it's going to be what the consensus is, 5.2%. My fear with that is that if it comes higher than 5.2%, how is the market going to react, right? Because a lot of the times, whatever the consensus is what the market starts to price in within the prices. So that's currently one thing that I'm watching, and it's the reason why my positions, I'm keeping them very small until Wednesday. Once that data comes out, then we'll start looking for some breakouts to the upside or downside. But that's why I'm being cautious right now. Right now is the time to be cautious. There's going to be a lot of volatility coming into the market. So I also recommend, if you're opening up any trades, be cautious and size down. Don't be greedy. I know it happens to all of us. It happens to me as well. But try to size down, keep your risk low, and wait to see what happens on Wednesday, and then play in that direction. either in the direction of whatever comes out on Wednesday, or if you think that it's overstretched, then maybe you might have a shot at shorting it at some point as well. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be personally watching here and how I'm going to be playing it. But yeah, I think that's pretty much covers, the analysis, what I wanted to cover. Now we're going to go into some Q&A. If you guys have any questions about anything that we've covered so far in today's live stream, drop it in the comments, and we'll be more than happy to answer some questions for you guys. I'm gonna take a break to drink some water. So I'm gonna pass it over to the queen over here. What do you think on that analysis while I drink some water real quick?
I think Bitcoin to the moon. Yeah, and I think it was fairly good. I think taking it slow right now is definitely going to be important. We've seen two things. We're seeing where we can go into the altcoin market, but we're also seeing where the Fed, with what they're doing, kind of going back and forth. Just in general, with everything that they're trying to do to, one, combat inflation, and two, somehow keep all the banks from going underwater, it definitely will affect the market. It is going to drain money out of the market because what a lot of people do when they invest money on the market, it's a lot of borrowed money, especially within the stock market for the most part. A lot of foreign investors do this where they buy property and they take a loan against it. If interest rates are very high, it doesn't make too much sense for them to do that, and then they invest it into the stock market, etc. So a lot of those things will affect whether or not people are investing, how much they're investing, and how much things are kind of moving overall, because they'd rather put their money in more safer assets. Because if the stock market is moving relatively slow, then that can be problematic. We've seen a lot of things, like the bank stocks kind of just plummet overall. Tech stocks are also very slow, and that's mostly because of what's happened, with the SBV and a couple of the others. There's actually a call on scams for tech right now, interestingly enough. And I mean, we've seen a lot of things go sideways with tech companies, from Cambridge Analytica all the way down the line. We've seen a lot of sideways actions with tech companies. So we will see, but definitely take it slow if you are investing into the crypto market. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is just, opinions. Take it slow. And we'll see in the upcoming days. Definitely dollar cost average in until there is a full-fledged bull signal. And at that point in time, Godspeed.
100%. So I don't see any questions in the comments. I do have a few questions from Instagram. I did a live Q&A yesterday on Instagram, and I took some of the questions to answer them today on stream. So one of the questions is the bear market finished? What do you think?
Is the bear market finished?
Yes.
No. I think that, first of all, we're working up to our next halving. And usually out of the 4-year mark, after we get out of the bear market, or I'm sorry, wait a second. Back up. I think we are on the tail end of the bear market, and we are transitioning to the bull market. My brain was processing bull market versus bear market. I think the bear market is definitely on its way out. There are a lot of coins that are happening this year and the following year, like Bitcoin, like Nervos, CKB, Handshake. So anything that's like running on proof of work, there's a lot of like happenings coming up for these tokens, right? That's one. Two, we are on the last quarter of the pre-bull market run, which usually means the market is starting to creep up slowly, just a little bit. We're going to see some dips. We're going to see some sideways movement with things that the Fed is going to try to do to salvage and uplift the dollar. We've seen, multiple attacks on crypto. Last bull run was really triggered by COVID. COVID really triggered that last bull run hard. This bull run might really be triggered by current events that are happening within our market, whether it's, you know, things going underwater financially for the U.S. or the idea of, you know, reserve currency loss status, whatever it is, these things are trigger effects for people to seek safe havens. And I think that's what we're starting to see already. So I think for the most part, like I said, probably dollar cost averaging in until you see that full, you know, bear signal dead bull market go, is probably the best way to play it, because we are on that back end where things start to creep up slowly before we have a full takeoff. But we still haven't halved for Bitcoin, and usually a year from the halving is when like something happens. So technically we aren't close, but because of current events, that may trigger it.
Yeah, so I'm kind of in a similar thing with you. You know, as far as is a bear market finished, I think we're still, again, like we're probably like it, like, all right, if you rephrase the question, is the bottom in? I believe the bottom for Bitcoin is in, for this bear market, right? And I think that this is the beginning of the next, what leads to the bull market. I don't think we're in the bull market yet, but I think we're in the beginning stage of what leads to it. You know, if we look at the weekly charts, we're already showing higher highs and higher lows on the weekly chart for the first time since the last time that we hit all-time highs. And then the time that we did that before that was when we were getting out, the same thing, kind of getting out of a bear market into the next bull run. Then when you take into account, you know, we're currently on the pre-halving year, right? Historically, the year of pre-halving has been the beginning of the bull market. You know, the year of the halving has been when the bull market really picked up, and then the year after the halving has been when it's really like hit that all-time high. So I'm thinking the next 3 years, probably, unless something crazy happens that's out of our control, right? That impacts the entire world, you know, something macroeconomic that happens, black swan events, some things like that. Other than that, you know, if we stay on pace where we're at right now, I think we do have, you know, Bitcoin does end this year green, and the next 2 years green. So we'll have 3 years green, probably. That's historically what happens with Bitcoin. So I think we're in that first year. Not saying that it's going to be crazy that we're in a bull market yet or anything like that, but I think this is a green year for Bitcoin. We do end green, potentially higher than what we're at right now. Because honestly, at the beginning of the year, my numbers for Bitcoin towards the end of the year was in the 30,000 range, and we're basically already about to hit $30,000, and we're only 4 months in. So so who knows what's going to happen throughout the rest of the year. But I think we do end up green for the year, and next year is really when I think, you know, things really can begin to pick up. All right. The next question is, we kind of already spoke about this. What's your thoughts on ETH after the Shanghai event? I think we already covered that. Let me see. Somebody asked about Matic. They wanted to know, what's your prediction for Matic in the next bull run? Do you hold any Matic, and are you bullish on it?
Personally, I actually got rid of my Matic a long time ago. I don't know. I've always been kind of like iffy around Polygon and a lot of these sidechain / like layer 2s that exist upon Ethereum. We've seen, I feel like Arbitrum came and went. Out of all the layers that existed on Ethereum, I think Arbitrum was my favorite. There's actually a huge controversy right now after they did their airdrop, and pretty much what's happened with their governance and the money that was allocated after, you know, whatever vote, and people are trying to like overthrow the governance now. So yeah, I think Matic is cool. I think there's been a lot of good partnerships that Polygon has pushed recently. But for me, I think that I probably will not be investing into Matic. What is it that I saw that they had something that was pretty cool? There was some big company that like built on top of Matic using their layer, but I don't remember exactly what it was. But they do have a lot of cool stuff going. Personally, for me, I pass on Matic, but yeah, I think it should perform fairly well along with everything else, and that's really dependent on its, I guess, one, distribution, market cap, and how much the team holds, and whether or not that affects dumping onto the market.
Yeah. I think I do personally have Matic, and like I've covered a lot before. I like layer ones, layer twos, all these side chains. I'm pretty bullish on them because I know that once this bull market really comes, all of these things are just gonna go up. What's that saying?
Right.
A rising tide lifts all boats, right? So all of these things are also gonna go up. So I am pretty bullish on them. Now I do take, it's not like I'm putting a bunch of my capital into them, but they're kind of like, I'm diversifying my portfolio into a lot of L1s and L2s. Some are gonna hit, some are not, but usually the ones that hit will outperform and make up for the ones that don't hit. So layer ones, layer twos are basically like 25% of my portfolio, not counting things like Ethereum and stuff like that. So I'm pretty bullish on it. What do I think it's gonna do? That's I don't know. Currently it's like $1. Is there a potential for it to 10x? Yes, there's definitely that potential for it to go to $10. I could see that scenario, especially if it stays within a top 10, top 25 coin. I think 100% it could 10x at that point. But we don't really know. That's just kind of a guesstimate of what it could potentially do. It might not go anywhere at the same time. So you gotta kind of adjust depending on your risk tolerance, and kind of have this scenario. Okay, what if this doesn't work out throughout the next bull run? Where would you be? Like, how will it affect you? And kind of assess your risk, right? You want to mitigate risk as much as possible by diversifying. So that's why I diversify a lot. I have my main portfolio, my main holdings are going to be like Bitcoin, Ethereum, right? Then after that's like half of my portfolio. And then after that, then I start diversifying into smaller and smaller portions. So, I think that's pretty much it. I think, well, one person asked, what's a CME gap? A CME gap, just to kind of break it down really easily, is basically the Chicago Mercantile Exchange is what the CME stands for. And basically what that is an exchange where futures is traded, right? So there is a Bitcoin future in that market, right? So the thing with the futures market is that it's closed on weekends, while Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is open 24/7 and 365 days a year. So what happens on Friday at, I want to say, is it 6 o'clock? I think 6 o'clock, somewhere around those lines, the futures market closes, right? So that means whatever price Bitcoin was at, that's where it stops. Let's say Bitcoin's price was at $26,000, or actually $20,000, because it's actually something that happened recently. So let's say Bitcoin's price on Friday closed at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at $20,000. And then what happens after 6 p.m.? The crypto market's still open, so the price can still move. And so let's say after a 6 p.m. close, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Bitcoin's price went up to $25,000 or something, just to make up a number for that one. What happens on Monday morning, or actually Sunday afternoon? So that futures market opens up again Sunday afternoons. So Sunday afternoons, when the market opens up again, now there's a gap from Friday, $20,000 when they closed, and Sunday afternoon when they opened up again. Let's say Bitcoin's price was at like $25,000, a $5,000 gap. So that's basically what it is. the reason it's important is because a lot of traders put a lot of faith and belief into it. You know, and when they see a gap, they say, okay, this gap is going to be filled eventually. So they expect basically a price retrace. So that's kind of what we've been seeing. If we pull up the chart here really quickly, we have this gap here. So if we look at this, exactly like I showed you guys, the price of Bitcoin closed at $19,965 Sunday afternoon. It opened at $21,250. So it created that gap between the close and the open. So that's what a CME gap is. And you know, a lot of people are expecting Bitcoin's price to drop back down into and close this gap, basically, is what it means. Because if we go back over here, we can see that this exact same thing happened here. This was the close on Friday. This was the open on Sunday. There was this gap. Bitcoin's price kept going up. But what happened eventually? It fell down. And guess what happened on this pullback here? It closed that gap. It filled the gap, right? So people are expecting something similar like that to happen again, where, you know, price might be going up, but eventually they're expecting a drop back down to this $20,000 range, basically. So that's kind of what a CME gap is and why it's somewhat important, because it doesn't always get filled, but sometimes it does, and it's important because a lot of traders and people put belief in it, and they believe that the price is going to do that. So if enough people believe in an idea, that idea, you know, can become possible and can become reality, right? But I think that's pretty much it. Do you have any final thoughts on this week?
No, I think you're right. I think that's just about it. There's nothing top of mind. Just gotta wait to see what comes out this week. What comes of the potential events that will bring volatility to the market, and maybe there'll be juicier stuff in this week that we can report on next week and talk about. But for the most part, I like calm weeks. It makes my life easier.
Yeah, for sure. My final thoughts are prepare for Wednesday, guys. I expect a lot of movement, volatility. We don't really know which directions, but if the last 3 months gives us any hint, is that the price of Bitcoin is going to go up. So we'll see how that plays out. This is not financial advice. This is just, you know, my opinion, our opinions and our ideas, and, you know, based on our experience in the market and looking back in history, what things have done and how they performed. But as we all know, previous performance doesn't mean anything in the future. And if there's anything that's certain in crypto and Bitcoin, is uncertainty. So that's kind of what I'm gonna leave you guys with. We'll do this again next week. Hopefully we can have Bitcoin Queen here again next week. And once again, thank you for taking out time, Bitcoin Queen, for joining me today.
Of course.
And hopefully I'll see you next week, and hopefully I see all you guys next week. So good luck today. Good luck this week. Remember, be safe out there. As always, peace and love.